What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and today we have a special video to tie a bow on the Dynasty offseason as we look forward to redraft this summer. We have a crazy ambassador video update. Now, this is an OG series of the channel. The whole idea around it was anonymously, I joined a Reddit Dynasty League. If you go to like Reddit r/find a league, you can find Dynasty Leagues on there. I'll be honest, it's not the best way to find leagues. I would probably look in my Discord or really anybody's Discord. Reddit can get sketchy. The commissioner in this league isn't the best, but the whole idea was to join under an alias. We went to the Wu-Tang name generator and came up with Crazy Ambassador. And the whole idea has been to document the startup, every trade I have made, and pretty much try and win a championship before they figure out that I've been documenting this the entire time. And it's one of my favorite series we've done on the channel. If you go back, I'll make sure I link this playlist, but if you go back to episode 1, it's very humbling to watch back, man. I say on there, like, thank you so much for hitting 650 subscribers, and I'm now talking to you guys from the basement with 39,000 subscribers. So just a really cool full circle moment. I'll never give up this series, even though that it is a bit of a chore to make sometimes. I've done in the past, like, cinematic openings where I'm like wrestling with my brother or remaking the Indiana Jones opening. Maybe in the future we will, but it's become such a headache that I push off this Crazy Ambassador video and then it's like barely even Dynasty season anymore. But today we're going to talk about what happened this season, the trades I've made, and I know the title is going to be mistakes I've made or stop making this mistake in Dynasty. To be honest, this team has been a learning experience all the way through, and I think that we've learned an even more valuable lesson from this season. I really want to echo to you guys. So when we talk about the moves, there's going to be lessons to be learned. We're going to talk through the rookie draft, how the season went, and then what we're looking towards this season for Crazy Ambassador. So with all that being said, if you're new, subscribe, leave a like. Let's go.
Yes, stones, like this froze, ice cold, ice around my body like I'm frozen. She gon' let me.
Now, in terms of the life cycle of this team, we did not have a great startup, but I kind of like that this has been a challenging team to rebuild and to make, and I think it's also shown a lot of my growth as just an analyst in this space where 3 years ago in a Dynasty League, I had a start that looked like this. Wasn't pretty. We're building around like Robert Woods, Julio Jones, Odell Beckham, Laviska Shenault's in there, Corey Davis. The quarterbacks, like our only quarterback was 609 Tua. You guys know me now. My most recent startup, I started with Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray. We're building around quarterbacks, where in this one, I kind of punted. It was a productive struggle. That's why there was no first or second round picks. So I traded my first and second round picks in the startup. Productive struggle. The issue is that like none of these picks hit. So then productive struggle, we're just using draft picks, trying to hit on draft picks, trying to store value from the draft picks that we're acquiring. And this is where we left off. We pretty much, the last episode was like about a year ago. And the way we left off was we were starting to turn around the rebuild, right? We rebuilded for the first 2 seasons. Heading into year 3 last year, we decided to start selling off some of our assets, some of our draft picks to try and win in 2023 and win the championship. So this is what the team looked like the last time we met. Justin Fields at QB1, Richardson at QB2. Breece Hall as our RB2, Christian McCaffrey as our RB1. Now I will say I probably should break down like what this screen even means. Let's actually sort of shrink this down so you can see the entire thing. But we have the quarterbacks just sorted by, at the time, keep trade cut value. Of course, you can see Andy Richardson is going to be QB1 of this room. When we fast forward to today, you have Breece, McCaffrey, all the running backs sorted by keep trade cut, all the wide receivers, all the tight ends. And then we have the starting lineup. What this starting lineup looks like on Underdog, right? So Fields is the QB6, Richardson the QB11. And it's just a way of just kind of getting a feel for how your team is going to look in the coming up year as if it was a redraft league. So that's probably the best way to gauge, is your team a contender? Then you have the picks column there where it's what kind of draft picks do I have? I had 224 first heading into this year. I had all my 2024 first, or all my 2024 picks, all my 2025 picks, and then the Dynasty GM ranks. I plugged in how, Dynasty GM is one of those sites that takes into account your teams. Now I use Dynasty data. You can really use whatever. First in Dynasty value, third in contending. We just finished in 9th place in points for. In the league format, 12-team Superflex tight end premium. So you can see this team's, solid. But knowing what we know now, we know Justin Fields busted. We know that Justin Fields got hurt. We know, or not Justin Fields, we know Anthony Richardson got hurt. I'm just trying to size this up. There we go. But we know Fields was like okay this year. Richardson got hurt. Bryce Young was awful. The wide receivers were okay. Darren Waller was awful last year. So not a great team. Now, we made 4 trades during the season. And this is where there's lessons to be learned here. Because I think midseason trades are some of the most risk-reward trades you can make. I think in the Dynasty season, we have all of the data possible. But in season, you're making moves and trades with incomplete data, right? If you traded Puka Nacua after week 1 for like 2 seconds, you could either win big or lose big in that situation. When players are trading hands mid-season, there's a lot that can go wrong. So when we look here, this first deal, I don't really mind much. This was October 19th. So Richardson went down. Bryce Young wasn't startable. I was still trying to make the playoffs with this team. So we trade Richardson and Bryce Young for Jalen Hurts. To me, that's about even. Jalen Hurts is in the running for QB1 in redraft. He's a top 5 pick in startups. It's essentially, so Richardson goes either early second or like the 112 in startups. So essentially paying like a mid to late 6 startup on top of the 112, move to like the 104 in a startup. To me, that's not that crazy, I don't think. So that one I don't mind. We get like a real difference maker at quarterback instead of all of these moves that we were making where, you can see here on the screen, Field, Richardson, Young, Lance, just a lot of question marks, but now we have a true difference maker at quarterback that scores a lot of points. Then we have October 26th or 22nd, and this one I didn't love a ton. I think that we didn't lose it by a crazy amount, but this is one of those, right? We couldn't start Bryce Young, or we just traded Bryce Young and we traded Anthony Richardson. You can't start Justin Fields down the stretch last year, so we traded for Matt Stafford. Now, this isn't a huge regret, but it's one of these mistakes of like maybe being a slightly too aggressive, or maybe this should have been like a third for Josh Dobbs or a third for Joe Flacco, but instead we lose the 204. At the 204, Penix was there, Leggett was there, Ricky Pearsall was there. At the 304, Jermaine Burton was there, so we traded that for Stafford. We probably lose by about a late second in this deal, so not terrible to get like starting quarterback production, but if you don't win a chip, you're losing future value by making a move like this. Now, another move to me that's passable that we made, this was November 30th, so probably right around the deadline. We trade, this is, and I will say as well, this is a 2 tight end premium. So you get, or I guess it's a 1 PPR tight end premium, right? So like all the wide receivers, running backs, 1 PPR, tight ends get 2 PPR. So huge tight end premium. We get Cole Kmet here for essentially, Darren Waller's dust now, so essentially a future second. I think most ADP trade calcs would have Kmet as about a future second, but you guys know he's been a screaming sell for me this offseason where Shane Waldron comes in. He's known for using a bunch of tight ends. We saw that last year with Noah Fant, and I want to say Will Dissly was in the mix on that team as well. And then he also has Rome Odunze now, Keenan Allen now. So Cole Kmet's like the 4th option and probably isn't going to have like an 80% route share. So Kmet's pretty dead. We'll look to trade him later. And then this is the one. This is the one from the title where it says, stop making this mistake. Don't do this. This is me being over-aggressive. I got to be honest. There's a lot of pressure with this series, man. I really want to win. It'd be a great video. And I was trying to sort of go all in here. I think as well, I had these first projected as mid to late. And you end up losing that gamble, right? So what we end up doing here is I get Hollywood Brown, Devontae Smith in the 309, and I give up Treylon Burks, who's dust, but I give up the 112 and the 104. The 112, whatever, but the 104 is a big-time asset, and I did not get a big-time asset in return, right? 104 is Malik Neighbors, because the 103 in this rookie draft ended up being Jaden Daniels, so the 104 could have been Malik Neighbors. We could have traded back and netted a future first and then got Drake May later on. It's just not great. And I think that this is the main, the main lesson to be learned from this past season, from this video series, something that I'm starting to learn myself as we play Dynasty here, that win now moves at the deadline are probably one of the most detrimental things you can do to your team, right? It's easy to be overconfident and say, oh, well, maybe I'm just a piece away, right? Like Jalen Hurts is buzzing. This team has Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brees, McCaffrey. Everybody's buzzing. Why not add Devontae Smith and Hollywood Brown to really get my flex going? Well, the issue is that, one, you go all in, you don't win, you cash in your 2 first-round picks. So this is a team that's been rebuilding, storing up all this value, and pretty much on the verge of becoming a juggernaut, right? Where if I had just let it ride, kept my 2 firsts, go into this rookie draft, and I use the 104 on a Malik Neighbors, or I trade back, like I said, and I add Drake May to a quarterback room that now has Jalen Hurts, this team could become a super team. But I've now cut that short, made it a contending team, no first in 2024, all to try and win for a YouTube video. And I hate to say that out loud, but that's kind of how that all happened. So I do want to say, I think that I've seen people do it in leagues. I did it here. It's a mistake we all fall into where the trade deadline comes around, we look around and we're like, man, the top team, like maybe the top team had Burrow and Burrow went down and Chase isn't looking good. And it's like, man, maybe it's time to strike. I honestly think you're better off, unless you have a clear need, right? Like let's say Joe Burrow goes down for you and now you want to try and maybe, I think a deal a lot of people were doing last season was like Burrow for Kyler as Kyler came back from his ACL. If you want to do something like that, sure. But this of like sending away first round picks, especially, I think the biggest mistake here is that it wasn't for like a true stud asset. Like if this deal 104, 112 and Treylon Burks, instead of for Devontae Smith and Hollywood Brown, it was for, I'm trying to think, because it couldn't be for Jefferson, Chase, or CeeDee, but let's say it was for, it couldn't be Amon-Ra St. Brown here, but let's say it was for like an Amon-Ra St. Brown, or it was for a CeeDee Lamb. Maybe I add something on top of it to get there. I think that that's good, right? Like the Jalen Hurts deal I showed earlier, it's not good, but it's at least defensible because you're getting something that's a real asset. Now, we give up that 104. That could have been Neighbors. That could have been a trade and then get Drake May. And now we just have Devontae Smith, who's a fine wide receiver too, but he's going late 4th in startups, and it's not really a sexy late 4th, and he's probably just a perennial wide receiver too. Hollywood Brown's dynasty value has fallen off a cliff. So now you just have 2 wide receivers that are fine, but they're replacement level, right? Like in terms of redraft value, Hollywood Brown and Devontae Smith, their dynasty value is elevated, or at least Devontae Smith is, and they're not giving you much more for your team than a Tyler Lockett or a Deebo Samuel or a Devontae Adams, these guys that are cheaper that are better in redraft. So it's a tough pill to swallow. Cooper Kupp would be another one. It's a tough pill to swallow, but it is something I want to use as a learning lesson for you guys to take from, because I think it's something that we all need to really hammer home. Again, when that trade deadline comes around, we're going to be greedy. You're going to look at your picks and be like, like maybe that's going to be a mid, maybe that's going to be 107, 108, and then you turn around and it ends up being a 104, and it's like, damn, that was not worth it. So I would say either stay away from trading away future firsts in general mid-season, or if you're going to do it, it needs to be for a first-round startup value, like a real, true difference maker. And if you have to pay the piper to do it, you pay the piper to do it. Now, when we talk about kind of the game theory aspect of this, of like, oh, well, it didn't work out for you, Ron, but maybe it'll work out for me. The idea here, and shout out to Adeko, he has all of the cool, charts and everything. Dynasty Data Lab is all him, at Adeko_FF on Twitter. This is a really, really good breakdown of how likely you are to win your league, right? When we look at the seed, so that's just like where you finished in your league, first and second have huge rates to win in first relative to the others, though. Because when you get that bye, right, the 31.9% to 26.4% there, those are really good compared to third, fourth, fifth, sixth, but it's still, even if you're the 1 seed, you get a bye, you're still winning your league less than a third of the time. So even the biggest juggernauts in the world, I've gone through my teams in the past where I've shown you guys a juggernaut, and they don't win all the time. I had a team where I had like Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, I think like McCaffrey's on this team, AJ Brown. Like it's the most stacked team I have, and I lost in the championship because random things happen. I like left Devontae Adams on my bench for like Devontae Smith, and it costed me. So you can have like the craziest teams in the world and still lose in Dynasty. And that's what this chart is kind of showing here, that even if you are the odds-on favorite in your league, you're still winning only 1/3 of the time. So the idea of, oh, I'm going to go all in and get a championship, I went all in, and it wasn't even to get a 1 seed. I was still just the 5 seed in this league, which is about a 10% chance, or here it's actually an 8% chance to win it all. So it's just something you want to stay away from. If you have a bye week, maybe it would incentivize you to do it more. But again, you're only going to win 1/3 of the time. So I think that you should really just take your dynasty team for what it is. Unless you're feeling an immediate need in season, right? Like let's say I'm the 1 seed about to get a bye, and my 2 quarterbacks are, like I said earlier, Kyler and Lamar. Kyler goes down, and my backup quarterback is someone garbage, right? Let's say my backup quarterback is like Sam Howell. He's not even starting games. Then okay, find a way to patch up that need without giving away a first. But I think the idea of like trying to assemble the Avengers at the trade deadline is probably a losing strategy. Because again, even if you are the favorite to win, you're only winning 1/3 of the time. And that is when first round picks are the cheapest, right at the deadline, right? Like those picks I traded away then at its cheapest. If I trade away the 104, the 112 in March, April, May, you're getting way more for those picks. So trading away first round picks in season to make a win now move. I know it's Dynasty 101. We all get caught up in it. We all get a trade offer like, man, maybe this move puts me over the edge. But you really do want to have some restraint in season with moves like that. Learn from me. It was not worth it. As you can see here, this is how this team ended up. We end up in 5th place. We go 19-9. And then in the playoffs were brutal, man. We lose in the first round by 1.8 points there. And then in the second round, we scored the most points of any of those teams. So if we went up, if we got one higher seed and we were on the bottom of this screenshot, we go to the second round, we score 205 points, make it to the finals, and then who knows what happens from there. I don't know. I don't even want to know how much points my team would have put up in week 17, but super unfortunate. We come up short. First round exit. We sell our first for nothing. And what that does now is our team's still good. Like, there's nothing to cry about here, but our team could have been much better. Right now, this is what our team looks like now. We have the second. Oh, damn. All right, I screwed this up. We actually have the 6th dynasty value, and we have the 2nd contending value. So now we just have a fine team. We have all of our firsts in place. We have a contending team, right? 2nd best contending rankings, but we don't have this juggernaut that's like competing and has future draft capital and has young studs and a team, right, where we could have like a top 3 in contending value and like the most dynasty value. That was the track we were on with those first round picks, with stockpiling stuff in the future. But we came up short. We didn't have the restraint. We didn't have the patience. So now, again, there's nothing to cry about. This team is fine. This team is going to compete this year. And maybe we're going to be the team this year that gets lucky and runs hot in the playoffs and wins it all. But from becoming this perennial first, second, bye week type of team year in and year out, we passed up on that opportunity to try and boost our win percentage in 2023. And that was a mistake. I was over-aggressive. I wanted to win one for you guys. There's also something in the back of my head where we've had issues with the commish. I don't know how long this league is going to truly be around. I was like, you know what, let's just push the chips all in. But as I kind of look at things from a bird's eye view in this video, I wish I hadn't. Now, when we talk about where this team is at, what we did in the rookie draft, again, we sold our first round pick. We sold our second round pick. There's no need to go through the rookie draft at that point. We took Jalen Wright in 302 at the 302. We took Braylon Allen, and then we took Aeneas Smith at the 508. And the team looks good. We have our first round pick in 2025. We don't have our second. We have Hurts. We have Matthew Stafford. We have McCaffrey, Breece Hall, Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devontae Smith, Cole Kmet, T. Higgins, Marquise Brown, Jordan Addison. So our wide receivers through the flex are sick. Our running backs are sick. Jalen Hurts is great. Our true weakness is Cole Kmet and Matthew Stafford. Our tight end 1 and our QB 2. We could still compete and probably still be one of the best teams in the playoffs without upgrading that spot, but I wouldn't mind trying. That's why I don't even really have Amon-Ra St. Brown as a clear sell. Addison and Kmet to me are more micro-level sells, but I would love to bundle Kmet with somebody and get a tight end. Like, if I could bundle, I don't mind Amon-Ra St. Brown, but if I could use him to downgrade from Amon-Ra St. Brown to an older receiver like a Devontae, like a Debo, like a Kupp, and use Kmet. Like, if I could do Amon-Ra St. Brown and Kmet and go get, I'm trying to think of like what could make sense theoretically. If I could use that package and go and get a Mark Andrews plus, I'm just pulling this off the top of my head here, plus like a DK Metcalf, maybe another piece on top of that, I would like that. So I'd love to see what I could sort of get there. Amon-Ra plus Kmet to go to a wide receiver tight end combo. Maybe somebody has like McBride and Andrews on the roster and they want to get rid of one of them. that's something I'm going to be shopping around. But I think that I could kind of not touch anything and be just fine. I wouldn't hate like Addison and Kmet to like upgrade to like an Evan Ingram, and then maybe like a dirt cheap receiver like a Tyler Lockett could make sense too. So I'll see. I'm going to probably poke around, see what I can do in terms of tight end, in terms of QB2 here. Same deal. Like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Kmet, and maybe get Andrews, Cup, and I don't know. Upgrading quarterback is going to be tough. I don't think that we're going to have enough. Like we would have to sell Amon-Ra and Stafford to go up and get like say Trevor Lawrence and a piece. Like it wouldn't be the same offset if that makes sense. Because like with Cole Kmet, it's Mark Andrews is much cheaper than your Trevor Lawrences of the world. And then if you go down to Evan Ingram, he's much cheaper. And you guys know me, I'm never really trying to get into I don't want to get into the Purdy range, the Tua range, the Goff range. I'd rather be in the Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, Geno Smith area. So I'm fine with Stafford for now. To me, I would have Kmet as like the very clear sell for me on this team. Now, that is going to do it for us today. I hope that you guys all learned from my mistake. Again, I was being over aggressive. I want to win a championship for you guys bad. I just think that the video would be super cool. But forfeited some future value, but I'm still confident in this. Like, this team is built well. It's going to contend for a while as long as we don't screw anything up. So that is the Crazy Ambassador update. We're going to go out here, try and win again. We're not going to be aggressive at the deadline. We're just going to, my team is on the floor, our way to the finals. That's honestly the big takeaway, is that you just have to have, I don't know what movie that's even from. I think it's maybe Hoosiers, but my team is on the floor. Your team is your team, unless if you have like a clear need. If there's like a huge injury, then sure, plug that hole. But like trying to assemble a God squad rarely works out in my experience. So be careful with that. Have some restraint at the deadline, because I think it's something that people don't talk about, especially because there's not a ton of Dynasty content in season that's like, hey, it's all, here are the trade targets, go buy these guys. And I'm honestly I contribute to that as well. But what I'm trying to say is in season, I think in Dynasty, it pays to have some restraint and say, hey, maybe let's not mortgage our future to buy these players. But on the flip side, I will say, as a rebuilder, there's definitely a massive, massive incentive to decide, okay, hey, this team's not going to make the playoffs. This team's not going to do anything. Scrap it all down and buy rookie picks while they're their cheapest in season around the deadline. So that's my spiel for today. That's the Crazy Ambassador update. Look forward to, I think that we're going to have kind of the setup all shifted around by next week, and then we're going to be getting into redraft season, talking through year 2 wide receivers, my favorite offenses to target, all of that good stuff. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're tuned in. Make sure you leave a like if you enjoyed it. And as always, I will see y'all in the next one.
Stones, like this froze, ice cold, ice around my body like I'm